Hey everyone, and thanks for jumping back into the cryptoverse. Today we're going to dive into several different logarithmic regression charts for Bitcoin. So if you guys like the content, please subscribe to the channel. Check out the Telegram channel here in the upper right hand corner, which you can also find a link to in the description below. And also check out my website if you want to sign up for the premium list and get access to exclusive content. So let's go ahead and dive in. So, I've covered a lot of different types of analysis on the channel. We've looked at logarithmic regression, risk metrics. We've looked at, time derivatives of moving averages. We've looked at a lot of different things over the last year or so. But one of the things that I think people tend to like the most are the logarithmic regression curves, and these are curves that you've seen before. But a lot of them have been, say, like in different videos. So in this video, we're going to go through the majority of these different types of analyses using logarithmic regression. While many people may have seen this before, I think a lot of times when the price is doing well, people just want to look at pretty charts. So here I am to deliver that to you for your enjoyment. So I hope you guys enjoy it. So the first thing we're going to look at is just, we have the price of Bitcoin here, logarithmic scale versus time. And if you're unfamiliar with this is our primary logarithmic regression band fit to somewhat discretionary non-bubble data. And that essentially allows us to fit these regions where we're essentially in our accumulation zones, are kind of like our bear market mode / accumulation region. This historically is our support line in this region. You can see that in the last market cycle, we spent a couple years in this primary regression band. In our current cycle, we first dropped down into it at the end of 2018. We did pop out of it for a period of time in 2019, and now we've come back down into the regression band, and we've been in it for a number of months now. But I like to use it because it can help us identify, various levels of support. And one of the interesting things is, this bottom here that occurred right at the lower end of the regression band also happened to correspond to the 200-week moving average. And interestingly enough, right now, the middle part of the band corresponds to the 20-week moving average, which historically is what needs to be held as support for the bull market to really get going. And you can see that we've actually moved above this regression, the line, and now we're kind of in our area of uncertainty in terms of where exactly we want to be within this regression band. So the premise is that if you're buying in this regression band, then you're, historically speaking, you're doing something right, and you should theoretically see profit. It's not that this is financial advice. Based on historical data, you would have seen profits, within a few months, maybe a year or so. You would have really started to see a significant ROI. Clearly, that does not mean that it always has to occur that way, but the idea is to use these prior market cycles to inform our future decisions. So consider this as something that it could just be a tool that you use. It doesn't have to be the primary thing, but it could be a tool that you use. So we're nearing the upper part of this band, and the upper part is somewhere between, I think, 10.5 and 11.5. Just if you're curious, if you haven't seen this chart before, you can actually find it live on one of my websites. It's intothecryptocharts.com. So you'd have to put like https://intothecryptocharts.com. I'll link it down below. But that way you can see an updated version of it, and you don't have to wait for, say, a new video. Now, we're going to go ahead and go through this just so we can kind of cover everything. I think people just, again, when prices are out, people really like and appreciate the macro level picture, especially the people that were diligent to be buying in these regions when the market was crashing, because you can kind of sit back and pat yourself on the back in a sense and say, yeah, I knew. Emotions were terrible at the time. People were capitulating like crazy. Bitcoin, everyone thought was going to like 1.8 thousand, but I was level-headed, and I continued to stay focused. I continued to dynamically DCA dollar cost average into the market, and now I'm sitting on a lot of positive ROI because of these decisions. So again, this is the macro level picture, and I want to explain here. You can see that if you were to, as a thought exercise, just to extend this curve out, then it would put us at getting to a $100,000 Bitcoin in 2026, and a $1 million Bitcoin by 2033. But the thing is this is our fair valuation. You can see that we have these speculative bubbles during each market cycle that pop above this fair valuation trend line. We've spoken about this before. And if you measure the difference, the percent difference between the price and the regression line, then you can extract a trend that looks like that. We'll draw our favorite imaginary line, and then you can see, you can extrapolate out to say 2023, which is when I think the next peak will likely be, and say that, okay, it's going to be a few 100% higher than the fair valuation, something that looks like that. And if you come back over here and look at, say, in 2023, the fair valuation will be, say, $30,000 to $40,000, but the speculative bubble might overvalue Bitcoin by about 200 to 300% or something, and that would get us to $100,000. So a lot of the analyses that I'm showing you are basically coinciding with $100,000 Bitcoin sometime in 2023. If you look at it this way, so if you just draw from bottom to top, bottom to top, bottom to top, you can see that these slopes are getting less steep each time. So if we were to extend this out in the same manner and draw what I think will likely happen, something like this, obviously, we could clearly come back down to the bottom of the regression band. That's not out of the realm of possibility, but ultimately coming back up to peak over, I think I accidentally drew this to 200,000, which it's possible that it could go to 200,000, but somewhere between $100,000 and $200,000 out in 2023, and then retracing back into the band following that. Now, this is actually what I think will happen in the long term. And some of you are probably puzzled, and you say, okay, well, Ben, if you think this is the regression band, why would the price eventually fall below it? And the answer is fairly straightforward. If you fit logarithmic regression, if you fit a curve to say just this data, then it would have predicted, $1 million Bitcoin like a couple years ago. If you fit it to say this data, the first couple of market cycles, then it would have lowered that prediction down, and then continuing on, you lower it and lower it. So ultimately, you're going to converge onto something that isn't going to change significantly from one market cycle to another. But it's important that this data is used to, say, refit each market cycle, not to say that it wasn't valid for the market cycle that I was in. I think in the short term, it is useful. But if you use, say, this data and you never refit the curve, then if you're say excluding the data from over here, then you're still going to be biased to the price of Bitcoin earlier on, and the fact that the returns weren't as low as they are in the future, because we know we're going to see diminishing returns, and they're likely going to continue to diminish over time. And so I think that it's more likely that we're going to see this continue to curve over. So what that would look like essentially would be, peaking, say, 2023 plus or minus some tolerance, coming back down, potentially coming down below this regression line, back to the $30,000 to $50,000 region. I think the next bear market / accumulation, whatever you want to call it, is going to be a long time. I think it could last 4 or 5 years potentially. The one after the one we're currently in. So if you're impatient now, just wait till the people that are buying Bitcoin at $100,000, they're going to have a really long time to wait to see to potentially see their investment come back if they choose not to sell within this speculative bubble. So then, you can imagine as kind of gearing up, this regression line might even be kind of a resistance in a sense, but I think ultimately when we refit it, it will continue to tell the same story that we want to tell. And this will put us, say, peaking again sometime in, say, 2031, 2032 timeframe at a few $100,000. So I think this could range between $300,000 to $500,000, and this is probably a decade from now. So realistically speaking, there's a lot of people that'll say we're going to go to $1 million this year, next year. I don't think it's going to happen. And again, the people buying Bitcoin at $100,000 are going to probably be those people that think it's going to a million in the short term. And then those people will be clearly identified as the dumb money. And hopefully, if you're watching this video now, you are, and you've been following my video or my channel for a while now, where we cover, say, like the risk metric and all these other things, and hopefully you've been dynamically dollar cost averaging into the market for a while now. So, just continue the good fight in that sense, I think, and hopefully over the macro scale, things will work out well. Clearly on a day-to-day basis, it's hard to make any useful predictions. But then again, finally, after, say, this peak, which again, we're going to see diminished returns from here to here as we've continued to see diminished returns from each peak to each peak. Then ultimately, I think it's, the cycle after that is probably going to last a decade, realistically speaking. And then it might finally get us to over $1 million Bitcoin by around the year of 2040. So this is ultimately what I see as Bitcoin's path. And I just want to show this, and I've spoken about it many times, but I do have a lot of new subscribers since the last time I made a logarithmic regression analysis video, so I just wanted to reiterate some of these points. Now let's go back and look at this. So this is just the primary regression band, but what if we draw on here, say, a regression fit to the peaks? Now this I don't think is as useful because you really shouldn't measure too much. You really shouldn't measure, or I guess you shouldn't extrapolate too much from speculative bubbles where everyone in the world is essentially buying Bitcoin and there's no rhyme or reason to its value at that point. They're just buying it because they're greedy, and they're just FOMOing into the market. But anyways, you can see that if you fit this and the non-bubble data down here, ultimately they will converge to a specific value. And I did a video where we drew this out, and they essentially converge by around 2040 or so. And this is where we would expect volatility, annualized volatility to reduce down to, say, maybe 1%. Which, if the price of Bitcoin is $1 million, then 1% is, say, $10,000 fluctuations. But it's still a fairly small percentage compared to, say, the annualized volatility that we see today. And again, if you just take this premise that we're seeing lengthening cycles, which is the pinned video on my YouTube channel, and draw this out, you could easily imagine that potentially staying within the regression band for another year or two, maybe we'll get lucky and we'll pop back out of it, just like we did in 2019. That clearly, it obviously could happen. But if it doesn't, then as long as we're in the band, we're still going to be trending upwards. So again, we're above the 20-week moving average. The bull market has to start at some point. I guess I should say, if a bull market is going to occur, it has to start at some point. And if you're new to the cryptocurrency world and you're seeing, things play out right now in real time, and you're just sitting there in disbelief, like, how could this be possible? We were at $3,800 a couple months ago. This is the general sentiment in each cycle. Not only do you have to be above the 20-week moving average, but you also have to have that element of disbelief in the market. People are constantly putting down, okay, it's going to retrace back down to 3,000, it's going to go back down to 6,000, but ultimately these people get left behind at some point. Now, clearly, we could retrace. There's no doubt that it's not impossible for Bitcoin to go back down even to the 200-week moving average. It could go back down to, say, $6,000. But there's no guarantee that it will. And for those saying that, I wish I could buy Bitcoin at $5,000, well, why didn't you have that opportunity a couple months ago? And I think this helps fuel a bull market because there's so many people that were sitting out of the market because they're sitting there in disbelief because they've watched Bitcoin go up so many times that they just think it has to come crashing back down to like $3,000 or $4,000. It has to. But eventually these people realize that, okay, maybe I was wrong, and then they come back into the market. They reverse capitulate out of fiat into Bitcoin, and they just continue to give the bull market fire to continue going on. So if we were to draw, say, these other regression lines, so one of the first videos I made on Bitcoin, I think, had these other regression lines here that you can see. So basically several bands of them. So it looks like this, and the basic idea is that if you just they're not meant to be that predictive in and of themselves. They're basically meant to allow you to identify kind of where we are within a market cycle. So if you notice again, from peak to peak, we're dropping down approximately 2.5 log lines. So if we were to draw that out, you could see something like that. We're dropping down 2.5, again 2.5, dropping down another 2.5 by say 2023 would, you guessed it, put us at around $100,000, just over $100,000 if that were to happen. And so this could be maybe the path we take to get there. And then ultimately retracing back down into a bear market. So I hope you guys enjoy the content. You know, this is really meant for people who are following the channel for a long time. You want these updates on where we are on the macro level view of things, not say the day-to-day movements. If you are interested in becoming on the premium list and getting access to a weekly newsletter that'll include logarithmic regression analysis quite frequently, as well as risk analysis that'll enable you to confidently dollar cost average your way in and out of the market, rather than relying on, say, your intuition as to where the peak might be, and access to, say, a private Telegram chat room. We have around 150 people in this chat room now, so it's a pretty good place to go if you want to filter out a lot of the noise that you might find in either my own personal Telegram chat room or many of the other ones that exist on Telegram. So it's a nice way to filter out a lot of the noise and to have really candid and focused discussions on the market in an atmosphere that isn't open to, say, millions of people. And then you'll also have access to a Google Sheets document that will provide you updated risk analysis, not only on Bitcoin, but also on Ethereum, also on the S&P 500, and currently also on Cardano. So currently it has those three cryptocurrencies and even traditional markets. So I'll continue to add more to that as we go throughout, as we continue marching forward. It also has undervaluation and overvaluation of the total cryptocurrency market cap. So this not only takes into account Bitcoin, but also other coins like altcoins. So consider that. This is, I think, the tier that you should sign up for if you're interested. If you really want, say, one-on-one help with your understanding some of these models, or say trying to get a second pair of eyes to look at your portfolio and try to identify maybe some levels of risk that you have in there that you would like to reduce, then you can look at the VIP patron, which is obviously significantly more expensive, but it's because I'm usually talking to these people on the phone several times a month. So that's the basic idea there. And if you aren't a fan of patreon.com, this is, by the way, patreon.com/intothecryptoverse, so you can find this in the description below. And then also I have my own website. So if you want to sign up using my own website, you can check that out. You can actually pay with credit card or cryptocurrency. And if you do pay with cryptocurrency, you'll have to pay for 6 or 12 month subscriptions. But the nice thing is you get a discount. And another nice thing, I guess, is cryptocurrency's up a lot recently, so you get a lot more bang for your buck in a sense that way, if you want to look at it from that perspective. But we have a lot of people in the group, and they've given a lot of good feedback, so I would urge you to check out the website that I have, again, intothecryptoverse.com. It recently changed. It did look a lot different previously, but I've changed it over to this so that I can easily manage an email list and have everything automated. So again, I would love it if you guys subscribe to the YouTube channel. If you want access to the premium content, then subscribe to the premium list. And if anything else, also check out the Telegram channel in the description below if you want to come join. We have around 3,200 people. So that'll wrap it up for this video, guys. I will talk to you next time. Bye.